In today's show, we're going to talk about Power Apps and document libraries. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a SharePoint document library and we're going to put that into a gallery inside of a mobile app and a tablet app probably. And then we're going to go in there and we're going to talk about filtering the data, sorting the data, viewing the files, using the thumbnails of the files, adding, editing. We're just going to kind of go through all that. I know there's a lot of questions out there about them. So I thought this was a good base video to get us going with those document libraries. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with Power Apps 911, those guys. And today, we're going to talk about Power Apps with document libraries. So what I want to do is I want to kind of dive in and explore this. And to do this, we're going to build like a complete document library recreation management app inside of Power Apps. Not because it's really something you would do, though we have had customers do it. What I'm really going to get after, though, is just trying to show you how to recreate some of that functionality so you can better understand the pieces. So when you do have challenges with document libraries in SharePoint with your mobile apps or other types of issues, or you want to browse files or all that fun stuff, you'll have all the pieces of the puzzle here with this video. And of course, I also fully expect that when you leave this video, you'll be like, oh, but wait, I still want to know this or that. That'll be fair. If that's the case, then yell at me. Tell me what you got to know down in the comments below. And of course, hit the subscribe button while you're down there. Okay. Anyway, let's switch over to my desktop and take a look. Actually, before we go to my desktop, let's just go look at the sample app I built. So here I am in the new Power Apps. I turn on the preview experience because I'm crazy. I don't know. Let's load in here. Oh, we got to allow that SharePoint connection. No big deal. So hit allow. And so here you can see this is my Power App, right? This is a gallery. I made a little custom folder symbol there for my folders. But I'm like, all right, pretty cool. Let's go in here. Let's click on one of the folders. Look at that. So I can actually see the children folders. I can see a file. I can say, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to preview that file. Look at that. So there's Chewy and his file, some different metadata about it. I just kind of pulled some of that in for fun. There you go. I could delete it. Hey, do you really want to delete this? No. And then I can even open the file directly into SharePoint. And so keep in mind that like the first time I did that, it prompted me to authenticate with my, MFA and all that fun stuff, but all that's not here. But there you go. So a fully working app, you'll notice also the little arrow up here at the top so I can move back up a folder. I could also go back into that class folder real quick. Let's add a file and then we'll just take a photo. Oh, look, we'll find Chewy sitting on the floor, take a picture, and we'll say use a photo. And so then that's going to go out and upload itself into my document library. And as soon as this thing finishes, it should all refresh. And there's our file. Woohoo! Right? We can even check it out. Let's zoom in. Yep, that's my fat dog sleeping right there. Awesome. But you know what? I get in trouble for too many Chewy pictures, so now we'll just delete it out and go. Awesome, right? So that's what we're going to build today. We're not going to build all of this, but we're going to do two things, right? First, we're going to switch over. We're going to understand the principles. So we're going to start with a blank screen, pull in the pieces, and get the main framework done, right? And the new things are going to be using a document library, talk a little bit about the insides, the outsides of that. And then once we've kind of done that, then we will come over to this app and I'll just kind of point out how we did some of the different pieces. Also keep in mind, if you're like, man, Shane, I really just want that app on my phone. I can totally get that. If that's the case, remember you can go to training.powerapps911.com. You can sign up for the curated library and you can just download this working app, right? Just get it. Don't even have to build it yourself. Okay. All right. So that's enough of demoing from my phone. Oh, Chewy has moved. It's hilarious. I was hoping he'd be sitting there, whatever. You don't care. Okay. We'll get out of this and let's return over here to our friend Power Apps. There's the app. We're not going to demo it here. We're going to go over here and we're going to start with a blank app. And so here I'm going to demo from a tablet app because it's a bigger interface, but I demoed that from a mobile app so that way you could see that it was truly working on in my case, an iPhone, right? But it should work exactly the same way on an Android device. All right, and so here we can see that, we're going to, first off, we're going to need to add a data source. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to say add data. We're going to search for SharePoint. We'll be annoyed that this doesn't show up. We'll back up, now it will. And there we go. So then this is going to show me all my SharePoint sites. And we'll choose Power Apps Videos. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to find my document library. And I believe it's called Shared Documents. Nope, I lied to you. It is going to be called Documents. There you go. So click on that and say connect, boop. Okay, so that adds that to our environment. Over here in SharePoint, you can see like it's just a regular, good old fashioned document library. I've added some metadata columns along the way for other demos I've done, but these are not really important. What's important is we have files, all right? So now what I want to do is I'm going to throw a gallery in here, because this to me makes the most sense for how I browse files. You don't have to use gallery, but this makes the most sense because I want to add my data source, which is documents. Now, when you drop it in, you'll start to see stuff, but it probably won't make a lot of sense, which is totally fair. But we could go over here to fields and be like, hey, I could use this. I never use this. I'm just going to change real quick the view to item, subtitle, body. And so what I'm going to do up here at the top is we're actually going to use the name. And remember, because what we're after right now is we're trying to figure out what there is to figure out, right? So that's where I'm like, all right, so name. So I immediately know that that's my folder names. And if I kind of go down here, those are folder names. But then now that I'm down here a little bit further, these are actually starting to be like files and stuff. So then maybe what's probably easier is in the second spot, we're going to do, how about file name? And it's file name with extension. And so for the folders, you just see their name. But if we scroll down to the actual file sections, wherever they are, oh my goodness, there you go. So camera 4, JPEG, camera 3, pic JPEG. So you can see different ones. And I realize that you only see photos right there, but I promise, oh, there you go. There's a Word document. All the files are there. Okay. So that's second. For this third spot, what I want to do is there is a special property in here you might not have ever seen called IsFolder. And so that is going to be true or false. That is going to help us in a moment as we start to kind of sort this thing down. Being able to see, is it a folder or not, is helpful. And there's actually one more thing I want to add in here. And so for that, we'll just kind of pull this one out of the way. We'll insert another label in here. And so for this one, I'm going to do folder path, because that's going to be part of the equation for us as we build out our solution. All right. Now over here on the side of the pictures, maybe you knew, maybe you didn't, but if you do this item and then dot thumbnail, and notice it's with a capital T, I accidentally built a folder, or I accidentally built a column called thumbnail with a lowercase t, right? You can see it over here. You know what? Let's just get rid of that. That's confusing. So what are we going to do? We're going to go to library settings. I'm going to go down here to thumbnail. I was experimenting with something else and I left that piece of trash there. So delete it, delete it. Now, once we delete this from SharePoint, remember Power Apps is still going to see it, but since we changed our data source, just go back over here, do a refresh. And now as we do .th, we no longer see that bogus one that we just had. So I'll get rid of the confusing piece instead of explaining it. So if you do .thumbnail, this is a system generated one, and you see there it's a record. So if you do a dot, it actually, SharePoint, when you upload a file to SharePoint, it automatically generates thumbnails for you, large, medium, and small. And so in some of our client projects, we have done things like show them like I'm about to do here, but we've also used it in other cases where we wanted the thumbnail generated so we could use that in another data source. So we let SharePoint create it and then we stole it. That'd probably be a good video for me to make in the future. But for right now, I'm just going to grab the small thumbnail because we're not looking for high resolution. We're just kind of looking for some visualization. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't see anything. But if you hit play, we scroll down here to where we get to the actual files. Where are files? There we go. So we can see there's a thumbnail for a Word document. There's a thumbnail for an image. And so as we just kind of go through here, we can see those. And that's why I have lots of images, because they're very visual. But it actually generates thumbnails for hundreds of file types. So, there's a PDF one being generated. There's a text file being generated. So kind of cool. All right. So that gets us enough of the pieces here to kind of sort it out a little bit. So now you're like, Shane, wait a minute. That's everything. Yes. So when you connect to the documents data source, it's like any other SharePoint list or any other data sources list or table. It would just give you everything. But I don't want that, right? I want to start to build this experience where I only see things in tiers, right? So like if we're in this top tier, there's only about 8 different folders here. So I want to only see those 8 folders. So what I figured out was that we want to use filter. So we'd say filter documents. And so then we're going to say where path, remember that's when we had that out there. So folder path is equal to, and I believe it is shared documents with a /. Oh, like so. We'll close this. And now we're going to give it a second, see if it processes. It does. And look, now we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We just have the 8 folders, and then we get into the files. Okay, so that's giving us exactly what we want. Now we're only seeing things in the top level, the root. Now, you might notice right away, I hope you noticed, that there is a yellow triangle here, there is a blue line, and so this is not delegable. This is the real bad news, right? This is the reason I didn't make this video about 6 months ago, because I was really kind of annoyed that it wasn't delegable. But as Matthew reminded me on Twitter, like, it's not my fault, so why should I be sad about it? I am still sad about it. Whoa, I almost just fell over. Standing still is apparently hard. Anyway, so what I want you to know is that this is not delegable. And so if you don't know anything about delegation, right, check out the video. I'll put a link up there. You need to understand delegation, like even not in this context. You just need to understand delegation in life. It's like, death, taxes, and delegation. Like they're the most important things. But so what this is going to tell me is that by default, only the first 500 files are going to be shown. Now, in the case of my document library, it only has like 380 files, so this is not a problem. Now, remember, over here on this side, you could go over here and say, oh, I want to change the delegation limit. You could increase that all the way up to 2,000, and so then you could have a document library that would work in this set up to 2,000. But you're going to have to plan for this. So you can't point this at a document library with 10 million items. It's not going to work. Right? Well, it'll work for the first 2,000 items, but not the rest of them. So this is not the world's most perfect solution because of this issue, but I can't do anything with it. So hopefully you don't have giant document libraries you're trying to work with in this case. Okay, so that's the delegation problem. Now, if you're like, wait, Shane, I'm not sure if delegation's really causing me issues. I mean, the blue line should make it obvious for you. The other thing that I was reminded to tell you guys here is if you don't believe me, right? You're like, hey, delegation, whatever, right? Set this thing to like 10, okay? So this says if something's not delegable, which this is not, only get the first 10 items that match, not the first 500. So if I set that to 10, and then we refresh our data over here, look, we literally only got, so we got these handful of folders, and then maybe some of these folders have some data in them, but we only got 10 records. So we're going to see a lot less data, and that's going to tell me that truly I wasn't delegating. So remember, the delegation, we always talk about increasing this value, but we should also talk more about turning it down to help you kind of validate whether or not you're running into delegation challenges. Okay, so now we've refreshed that. We're back to normal. We're going to ignore delegation as much as it pains my heart. We're going to do one more thing later in the video that also pains my heart, so just be ready for it. Now, over here as well, you notice that these things are not, folders don't have thumbnails. So what I wanted is I wanted a way to show something here. I showed that cute little folder icon. So what I did is I went out to a third-party website called Pixabay. They had like a royalty-free image of a folder. So I downloaded that. So then now we're just going to upload that into our app. So if we go here, and then we go to downloads. So there's the little icon that I stole from them. And so then for this image, I ended up just doing something like this. I said, hey, if this item dot is folder, then show that folder file, and if not, show the thumbnail. And so then now I get that cute little folder look here, and then we get straight into thumbnails. Now down here, you're like, hey, Shane, those are not showing thumbnails. So that is because there's something wrong with those files. It is not, right there, like that file is blank, is honestly the reason it's not showing a thumbnail. And that JPEG is corrupt. That's why it's not showing. So all the other file types, videos, everything else I've tested, they all get thumbnails. So, but I want to have my folders have thumbnails. Okay, so that's one. So now you're like, hey, all right, so how do we get to the next level, right? Well, what if I want to go down a level? So I did this a couple different ways. I'm going to save you guys all the ways I did that I didn't like and just go straight to the one I did. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change my query up here, right? So right now we say folder path equals shared documents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start keeping that in a variable. First off, I'm going to go up here to app on start. Remember, these are things that happen when your app first starts. I'm going to say set var file path, or it should be folder path, not file path, folder path, and set it to that. So when the app first loads, I'm going to give it the root folder path. So we'll just right click on that, run on start. And so then now I'm going to change this and say you use that folder path. Nothing changes, same data. But what we're going to do now is if you click on this arrow to go down, I'm going to say set var folder path. It is going to be var folder path, and then we're going to concatenate or add to the end of the string the name. So this it's not that. It's this item dot name. Because remember, name right now, you can see, so the name of this folder is test. So that is what we're going to do here. And then we need a slash on the end of it to tell Power Apps we're done. And so now if we press this, it's going to set that variable. And when it sets the variable, because the gallery is filtered by the variable, now it is showing us that subpath. Right? I did that a couple different ways, and then I finally found the one I liked, and that was it. And so up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say var folder path, just so we can kind of always see. And so now if we click on sub 1, right, now we are into this. You can see that there's the matching that's happening. So that's why we're only seeing that one file. And if we went over here and said go to test and then go to sub 1, we should see one file. Whoa! So that is how I was filtering down the pieces. Now, you also might notice over here that when we went into, so let's go to the same place. So test, and then I went to sub 1. So now I had this up arrow that takes me back. So how does that thing work? Well, actually, we're going to go over here and look at it real quick. But what we're going to do is, I'm going to steal this because I don't think I can rewrite it off the top of my head. So we're going to say, let's give ourselves a little up arrow. So we'll just insert an icon over here. We'll get an arrow that points up. Well, we'll use that one this time. So there's our up arrow. And so we're going to paste in here. We're going to say set var file path, right? Remember, it's all about fixing the, or var folder path. It's all about fixing that variable. So I'm going to paste this code in, and I got to change these because I used a different variable name over there that I didn't like. And then we'll talk through how this works. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to use a couple of different functions. But if we look at var folder path, it is going to be folder /folder /folder/. So in my code, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to say, hey, oh, I'm missing a closing parenthesis, I think. I got too many. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start kind of from the inside. And we're going to say, I want to split this thing. So I'm going to split var folder path on the slash. So if we do that, you get shared documents, test, sub 1, and a blank row. This blank row is important, right? This is the stuff that's at the end, which there is none, but because it ends in a slash, it's always going to have a slash or a blank row. So that's important. Okay, so that's first thing. We're going to split that. Then I'm going to say, I'm going to use this function called first in. First in says, get me X number of rows. Get me the first number of rows out of a table. Remember, this just produced a table with 4 rows. So give me the first rows out there. And how many do I want? I want the current count. So count up the number of rows, which is 4, right? Which we just said. That's cool. And subtract 2. Because I want to delete out of there, if we look again, I don't want, oh, let me get the split. I don't want this row and I don't want this row, right? Because we're trying to get out of sub. We're trying to go straight to test. So give me the first 2 rows in this case. Give me the shared documents row and the test row. So pass that data set. So if we highlight all this, you can see it, right? It gives us a single column table called result with shared documents and test. It gives us our 2 pieces. And then it says concat these 2. So make a string, right? Text string that is shared documents, right? That's results. And then add a slash. So shared documents slash and then test slash. So this is what puts the variable or rebuilds the whole thing back into our concatenated piece. And then last but not least, we need that trailing one at the end. So we put it on the end. So if we put this and press this button, success, right? It got us in there. And you're thinking, well, Shane, is it, is there anything about this that is hard coded? No, that's the beauty of this formula, is because you always just want to split whatever's in there. So you could be 75 layers deep. You're going to split that out. You're going to drop the last 2 rows, like the blank row and the row that you're currently in. And then it would put the other 73 pieces in, right? This formula is perfect the way it is. Mwah. Technically, it's not perfect. I see at least one way I would change it to make it better, but we're not going to get down that. I feel like we're too nerdy as it is. But that formula is the key to making all this work. That does what it needs to do. And now we can navigate up again. Yay. Now we do need to make this go away when we're at the top. So how did I do that over here? Because I like to steal. I'm going to go here and say, well, look, I had the visible property set to if only show this if the number of rows is greater than 2. Because remember, if we, so let's just copy this, go put it over there and talk about it. So we'll go to this up arrow, we'll say visible. And then in here, we're going to paste this. We got to change this back to my new variable. I wish I hadn't changed the variable mid-flight, but I did. Because the var path was really confusing me because there's a function called varp, and I kept like getting the two intermixed. So that's why I changed it to var folder path. But so if we look at this right now, because we're at the top, there are 2 rows. All right, there's shared documents, and then there's the blank row. And so what we're saying is, hey, if this is greater than 2, so anytime that you go to a subfolder, then like when we go to test, there's three rows, right? So we only want this arrow to show up if there are 3 rows or more. So in this case right now, right, we're at the root, we shouldn't see an up arrow. There's nowhere to go up to. But if we go into folder, I don't know what this is. There you go. It shows back up. We go back. It disappears. Class. Oh yeah, we got some sub. Look at that. We're like 4 layers deep now, right? Shared documents, class, sub1, sub_1, boom. And we can look at all that. All right. So that is how you navigate through, keeping in mind that this is not delegable. When you start introducing the whole folder concept, unfortunately, it's just not delegable. Not my fault. Okay, so then that is pretty good stuff. So then in here as well, you might say, well, Shane, like how did you open this file directly? Well, good question. So what I did was I said, hey, I only want to show this forward arrow if it is a folder, right? So I'm going to say visible, this item is folder. So then notice now, all of these guys don't show the arrow because there's no folder to dive into. That makes sense to me. And so then now in here, I'm going to say, all right, I want to have another one for opening the file. So we'll go here to icons. You can use whatever you want. I don't remember what I ended up using. I think I had found a document one down here. Document with content. Seems great. So I'm going to throw this over here. And I'm going to say, hey, document with content. All right, 2 things. One is your visible is just going to be not this item is a folder, right? So only show up if it's not a folder. That makes sense. And then on select, we're going to take advantage of the launch function to say launch this item dot, I think it's link to item. And so that function does, it says, hey, browser, operating system, whatever you are, here's a link. Do whatever it is you want to do with that link. But so now if we go down here and we scroll, like, oh, well, you know what? I want to check out this deploying SQL Server 2016 Power. I don't know what this is. Click on it. It opens up a new browser tab. It's taking me straight into Word. And now I can read about whatever this is. I do not know why this is on my machine, but whatever. There you go. Or it's not on my machine. It's on SharePoint. Whatever. The file is there. So it launched the file. And if we had given it like if we go in here and click on, let's find a JPEG that actually has one. So there's this. So then it would launch in there. And so this took me straight to the file URL inside of SharePoint. It didn't prompt me to log in or anything because on my machine, there's already a cookie for SharePoint. But this is just like we talked about over on your mobile device. The first time that I clicked on it, it said, hey, do your MFA stuff so we know that you know how to get into SharePoint. You have permission. We had to get authorized to be inside of SharePoint. And so I just did my normal login and it opened the file up. It opened the Word document straight up on my mobile device as well. So very cool stuff there. All right. So that is how we do that. Let's go over here and let's take a look. Now that I think we've covered all the things I wanted to talk about here. If not, we'll come back. But let's go back to this one. And so over here, let's see, we had the plus. So the plus was letting us upload a file, or on my phone even let us take the picture of Chewy. So that is a different video, right? We're not going to go over that. That is how to upload a SharePoint file, right? I literally just copied the code out of that one and dropped it into this app. So I'll put a link to that video up there, but that is just your standard uploading to a document library process. Nothing special there. Like in the video, I even do it with a plus. So literally the same thing. So we're not going to talk about that again. On the, so I think open file here is going to be, let's see, we'll go over here to the gallery. So icon open, yep, launch link to item, just like we did. I also did the icon preview. So remember, that's where I went down here and I'm like, hey, I want to preview. I don't even know what this is. Let's just be brave and click on it. So it looks like some turkey treats for Chewy. I don't know. But so you can see that when I click on this, I got this fun little preview experience. So this is just our standard pop-up. But the way that I wrote this one, let's go look and see how I did that, just so you get an overview of it. So I put the variable, I set var record to be this item, so that way I knew what it was. And then I did a pop-up var show preview. But before we leave this thing, before we go look at the preview, we also are going to see here in the visible, I said, only show this. That's what it was. I only wanted to show the preview if they were JPEGs or PNGs. So I set the visible property to be like, hey, look at the file name of the extension. If the right 3 characters are JPG, show it. Or if they're PNG, show it. Now, you could write as many of those as you want. Maybe you want to show it for all files. But just keep in mind that when we look at the preview, the way that I wrote this preview, and you can do it differently. Let's click on one so it's easier to see. Go back to this one. So inside this preview, so I had a label, and so here I'm just showing the different file properties of var record. So this is how I was able to show the file metadata, right? Who created it, when they created it, all that fun stuff. I had an icon up here at the top. This icon right here is for var show preview false, so that's what makes the pop-up go away. I did the cute little circle because I wanted a circle background. I don't know, I just wanted to do something different. And then I'm using an image control here, and I'm saying, hey, you, use gallery2.selected.thumbnail.large. So show the file thumbnail. Now this could be important, right? Because especially like when you get onto mobile devices and stuff, if you put the file link in there, the only way the file link is going to work is if the user has authenticated already, and I'm not even sure it would work in that case, right? So this is why we're talking about using it from a document library, because we want to look at these files, but I didn't want to like try to show the actual file here. I'm just doing this. Now you're saying, well, Shane, I want to embed a Word document. Well, you can show the words thumbnail here, no problem. But if you want your users to interact with a Word document from their mobile device, like Power Apps doesn't have a way to edit Office documents. So you're going to have to use Launch, right? That's why I showed Launch first. You're going to have to use Launch to get over there and do, launch it into the browser, and then you're using the Word version or whatever, or you can, open on the Word on your phone. But basically, Power Apps isn't going to handle anything facilitating for you other than either showing a thumbnail or launching the file so that they can interact with it. So that's where a lot of people have a hard time. But by using the document library and the thumbnails, we get through probably the most common issues I run into people right there. Okay? So there's that. So then we also here, so that was the preview. We've opened, right? That's the launch. We also have the delete icon. So let's see what happens. Let's press delete. And so here I also just, I guess I should show you how I show delete. Cancel. So for the delete icon, what we did is we're just saying set var delete to true. So I have a variable for tracking that. And then I have the visible only show if the open icon is visible. Well, what was the open icon? Remember, that one was only visible if it was not a folder. So I just didn't want to write the formula twice. I could have written it twice. I just referenced one from the other. Pretty typical of my style. All right, so then now icon delete. So let's click on one of these delete icons. So this opened up my delete confirmation. And so then over here, you're going to see that I've got a button that just cancels, which just changes the variable back. I've got a button that does a delete. And so that's going to do a remove document and the selected one. So remove the selected document and then set delete, whatever. And just another reminder, right? I have a delete video I made last week, 2 weeks ago. So I'll link to that if you want to learn more about delete pop-ups. This is the image, once again, showing the thumbnail. And then this label is, are you sure you want to delete? And then the selected file name with extensions. That way it can be really sure, right? As I talked about in that other video, I'm really scared of deletes. Another fun thing I did here, so in my 2 pop-ups, the overlay background is not in either one. I said, hey, it's the same exact thing. So whether they're doing show preview, show spinner, or show delete, just use that same background. So that way I didn't have 3 of these same exact overlays. Different, I don't know. I usually don't do that. I usually just have 3 copies of it, but that seemed more correct, so I thought I'd show you that. All right, so that is all those pieces. Yeah, I think I think that's everything. What do you guys think? What other questions do you have about this? I'm certain that you do. It's just fair. Leave them in the comments below. Maybe it'll make a future video because, I know that documents are kind of a little overwhelming, but since we learned to upload those a couple years ago, I think November of 2019 is when I finally figured that out for us. Ever since then, we've used more and more documents inside of there. So if you have any questions, comments, any of that, leave them below. If you want to just download this full working app and you just want to support the channel and you just want to be emailed by me every Sunday when I'm like, hey, here's this week's videos, sign up to the training.powerapps911.com. You can sign up for the curated library, and then you get all these fun things. You can sign up for the office hours so you can meet with me once a week. I think Wednesday is this month's office hours. So pretty cool stuff. All right. And with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem is big or small, check us out at Power Apps 911. We do it all. I rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.